Good and welcome everyone. Decided to do a little bit of a winemaking video. I thought I'd take you through some of the steps that I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do now, well, I've got grapes. So these are English grapes from Ilkeston, Nottingham. And you've got 3 bolts clearly. And these were grown outside. So all summer. They're looking big. I mean, look how big my thumbnail is. Some of these are really nice. They're nice to eat, but they've got seeds in. So I'm going to crush them a little bit. You can eat some, I'm going to eat a few. And I've got some rhubarb as well from the garden, so it's all organic. Quite a nice yield, it's a good yield this year. So 2023 will go down as the best crop ever. So 3 bowls is a nice little sum. Last year we got 2, but they were from different grapevines. So this is a single plant and a single rhubarb plant, so it's got a lovely terre noir to it. So first of all, what I'm going to do, well, I'm going to put them all in the bucket and I'm going to give them a rinse off. Make sure there's no dust and dirt, and then I'll show you the next step. So it's super simple, just literally a good rinse off, and then we'll drain them. The water will go to the wine, that isn't actually a problem, but we'll get rid of all the dusty rubbish first. I'll drain them off, give them a second rinse probably, and then we know that we've also got rid of some of the bugs. It doesn't really matter, but it's just nice to think you're not eating dirt, or where some birds has done its business. I mean, these look really clean grapes to be fair, but it's just nice, just give them a little bit of a wash over. I've not broken any of the grapes, so I'm not going to lose any sugar as I drain it off. So there you go. Okay, so you can see now I gave my equipment just a little bit of a rinse off. It's pretty clean. I'm going to clean it properly in a minute, but that's what I'm left with. But what I've tried to do is just get any extra bits of juices with it, just a quick spray off. That adds to my fluids, because I'm going to obviously leave it overnight. I'm going to put some fertilise in a minute to help the enzyme work more of that juice out of that fruit. Okay, so now I'm on my rhubarb phase, so it's a little bit of tartness that we're going to add into the wine with this. It doesn't have a lot of tannins, which is why it's good to give it a crush and a bit of a macerate. So I'm just going to cut it up first, and then we're also going to run it through our scratter, the crusher. And that again just helps some of the juice, some of the flavour to come out. There's not a massive amount of sugar in this, but we're looking for tannins, we're looking for a bit of rhubarb flavour really more than the sugar. Because I'm going to add a bit of sugar anyway, so there we go, that's the next phase. Okay, so the rhubarb's in, you can see. I have to rest my hand on here. I'll give this a crush too. It's a little bit harder, but it works, it does make a difference. We're going to run that through. And I'm going to rinse it all off with a little bit of water. And you can see in here, let's see if you can see. So it crushes it up. It's not perfect, but it's easier than trying to do it by hand. Like I said, I'm going to run it through the wine press anyway. So that'll get the last bit of juice out. Okay, so this is what I've got. Doesn't look great. If you look, it's pulped a lot of them. We've broken most of the skins. And then we're going to leave it, obviously, a little while just to macerate down. But you see, a lot of pulp there, which is going to be much easier to crush. Okay, so I'm going to show you what my pressing setup is. I've put it left. This guy's been left overnight. I've put a little seal. It's just water. I'm not particularly worried about anything growing in it because I'm going to press it tomorrow and then I'm going to kill everything. I've also not killed anything here. I've not sterilised my other tub. I've just left it. It's pretty clean. There's nothing in there that's dodgy. It's all natural. And then I'll kill everything later. So we've got the bag in. I've greased, oiled it up with a bit of olive oil. I tend to use a bit of olive oil. Can't go wrong with that. So that the top part, look, let's just get it in here. So let's go a bit. It's nice to have friction-free flow. So obviously, if you're used to wine presses, this is like a very typical one now. Some people have made them. I used to use one with an old washing tub, which is stainless steel, which is great actually. Works really well. But these will come as a kit. So what you've got in the kit, you've got 2 pieces that go on the top, and then you've got the wood here, and basically it just twists with the pole and it pushes it down. Now that's great, but you think, I'm only doing like a small amount, so we might only fill sort of up to here. So what I tend to do is I've got a whole nother load of bits of wood. So they give you 2 bits with the kit. So what you do is you slip, so I can't see what I'm doing here. So you put the wood in and that goes on top, but of course that only goes a little way. So what you then do is you take that off and you want some more bits, so so you kind of build up this tower. So I worked out with mine that I needed quite a few bits, so I just used some old pine. This is really old, tough pine, like not like the rubbish you get now, but this is solid. You could use hardwood, but it's just scraps that I had. So I made a little tower. So now I'm all ready to go tomorrow. So as soon as you're ready, I'm just literally going to drop it in, or I could use the tap maybe. I'll probably just gently pour it in. Some of the water's going to come straight out, and then we'll press the rest and we're good to go. And then we'll kill off whatever's in here before we add the yeast and the yeast nutrient. So I'll see you back here when I'm crushing. Okay, so a day on. There's the juice coming out of my press. Now this is just gravity alone, you see. I've not done anything. It looks brown, it's a horrible colour. Tastes amazing actually. Don't worry about the colour, it's slightly oxidised. Now I've already dropped all the stuff in my mesh bag. You can see I'm just going to give this a little bit of a rinse with some water in a second. I'm just going to let gravity do its job first, and then I'm going to start to do the press bit in a second. But you can see it's actually runs a bit more clear now because it sort of filters through. But there's definitely some sediment. That'll fall out anyway, so it's not a problem. But the juice overall looks good, so I'm going to put my stuff on top and then I'll show you what you do. Okay, so I've set my press up. So you can see I've gone right above the height because obviously actually I filled this guy up to about here, so I'm going to need at least that to get it to do. This is quite a big press. Some people might buy smaller ones, but actually this is oversized really for what I often do. So you need a few more bits of wood. So literally you can then just turn, and obviously it starts off quite easy and it gets harder and harder. But I'm just going to keep turning, just keep cranking it. It's quite boring. Look, you can see the juice is flowing out, no probs. I'm not going to do it particularly quickly. I'm just going to do it nice and steady, get a good flow. The top tip is you must screw it down. If you don't screw it down, it comes off because you're going to really tighten it. So we're really going to crank on the pressure in a minute. We're really going to go, and it's surprising how far it will go down. But look at the juice coming out. It's incredible, this press. And look, there you go. So we've already gone down some way from the top already, and it's just pouring out. So it's perfect. And the actual medium, see how clear that is. This first lot was a little bit cloudy, but if I was going to do a massive lot, obviously I might take the first bit off, rack it off somewhere else, and take, this is much clearer, but all this sediment will drop out in the event. So I'm going to crack on with that, and you can join me later. Okay then, so I've done my crushing, taking the bag out, giving everything a wash over, pretty simple, I'm not going to show you that. Then this is the cake that I've got left over, so it's dry. I could, if I really wanted, you can rehydrate it and wash it off and give it another go over, but in reality I've got the juice. I mean this is dry, this is pretty much really quite, it's good. And if you look, the cake just comes apart. Obviously if you do more you get a lot more out of it, but I mean because we've had the pectin in there, we left it overnight and we crushed it already, it's got everything out. We're really good to go. So there you go. So I'm going to chuck that in the bin. You can compost it, not a problem. I'm just going to get rid because I've not got much doing. So there we go. So that's the leftovers. Okay, so we're on to the refractometer part where we're going to look at the sugar content of my juice. So I've got my juice in here, just tapped a bit off, and I've dropped a couple of drops onto the little prism there. I flipped the lid and I adjusted the eyepiece, and if I go up close I should be able to show you, let's get a bit more light on it. So this is showing us we're about 1042. It's hard to show you with my phone, but you can see where the blue line is. So 1042 is our sugar level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of sugar, a bit of dextrose brewing sugar in, just to up the sugar level a little bit. I'll check the specific gravity again, and I'm going to also check the pH. So I'll redo this one and we'll also check the pH just to get a little bit of more alcohol out before we sterilise and then drop the yeast in. Okay, so I've got about, I reckon, 6 or 7 litres. I've got a around 600 grams here of sugar, or the brewer's sugar, so it's more fermentable. I'm just going to drop it in, so pretty simple, and we're going to give it a good stir, and then we're going to check the specific gravity again, and we'll see if we've got anything better. So you do need to stir for a while. Temperatures today are actually quite warm, so we should be able to dissolve this nicely. I'm really aiming for a specific gravity, pushing up to like 90s, because that's going to give me an alcoholic content of around 10% on the finished wine. So you need the high alcohol, otherwise it's going to go off. It's not that you want ridiculous alcohol, but wine has to be higher, otherwise it goes off. So I'm going to stir this and give it a try, and then we're going to see what happens. If it's no good, we'll add a little bit more sugar in. I'm just doing it literally, because I've got the refractometer, it's easier. I can scientifically work out what I need to add in, but I'm just in the garage and I'm just going to add a bit in and see. We're going to go from there and just do it a little bit roughly. It's just a small volume, so there's no point in messing about too much. Okay, so we've got it to about 1072, so that's about 30 SG. I reckon I'm going to need about another half kilo. So I'm going to add another half kilo in, and we'll do this test again. So you can see I'm not cheating. I'll check again at the end, but it's not hard to do. You just add a little bit more sugar in, and then I'm going to fully dissolve it, and then we'll do the final check. Okay, so hopefully you can see we're on 1090. I've added in another 400 grams, so that was 1 kilo of sugar dissolved in. It now tastes really very sweet. You wouldn't want to drink this. Before it was lovely juice to drink, so if you want a juice to drink, keep just with the juice before you put the sugar in. This now is looking to give us a really decent alcohol percentage, about 10%. For a summer wine, that's really nice. And I'm going to have a look at my pH probe. So just got to set up and then come back to the pH probe. I'm going to check the pH and see where we're at on pH scale. Okay, so if you've not seen a pH probe in action, they're actually really simple. Again, cheap off Amazon. You can buy them with actually some calibrating solutions. I already calibrated mine a long time ago, but I've put it back in water just to test it. You're supposed to store it with the cap on. There's the cap. If you don't, the electrode dries out. This is showing 7, a pretty steady 7, isn't it? It's just tap water. I'm going to put it straight in. Here we go. Whoa. And let's see. So let's give it a whoosh round. You've got to get it steady. You've got to give it a bit of time. So there we go. So the pH of this is I think it's pretty steady as 3, which is quite acidic. I think that's probably okay. I'm going to have to check up. I'm not going to lie. I need to have a little look and check what I need for pH. If I need to adjust it, then we're going to adjust it. But let's see. I'll come back to you and I'll either say yes, this is great, or I'm going to have to adjust it. But we're looking at about 3, which is definitely pretty acidy, which is good. It's good for wine to be acidy, but not too acidic. And also the flavour's too acidic, that's not good either. Okay, so I'm sterilising my demijohns. It's really simple. Bit of cold water. I did a little spoon of the sodium metabisulfate. 1 teaspoon went in for each one, and then I keep just giving it a really good shake around. Can't do it properly because I'm on the phone. But I spin it around, put your hand on top, and do that for about 15 minutes. That's sterile, okay? And then the plan is, now I know some people would say, oh, you can sterilise this one. Well, I'm just going to be a bit sort of wild, actually, should we say, compared to beer making. I'm just going to pitch the yeast in as it is, and hopefully that yeast is going to take over and do all the clever stuff. And then what I'll do is when we get to the end of the fermentation, I will then Camden tablet in each and kill it. So I'm going to use some of this Lalvin EC1118. There's quite a lot there actually, but it's going to start it off really well. We've got plenty of sugar for the yeast to work on. Now you should pitch it in, it reckons, so it's saying 50 ml of water, 35 to 37 degrees first, and then you add it. Oh, can't quite see that there. So it's important that we activate the yeast first because it's dried, it's been kept in the fridge, bought off Amazon. So I'm going to do that first, and I'm going to be really careful with my water temperature to make sure it's just warm enough to get the little guy going, otherwise it's not going to happen. So I'm going to go and do that and come back, and by that point these guys are going to be sterilised, and I'm going to pitch it in. Okay guys, so I've pitched in. You can see my temperature is about 35 there. Okay, I'm just going to give it a few minutes. I keep stirring it. I'm just going to hydrate everything so it's really nice, and then we're going to pitch it in here. You can see we've got 2 demijohns because now we had that volume with definitely the lines up here. So we're pushing on really, aren't we, to, you know, that's 1 gallon, and that's about 1.4. So we can split it between the 2 demijohns, which I keep giving a good shake and a spin round. And then there's enough space there, enough headroom for fermentation as well. And we're going to do a little lock on top using some of this stuff before we pour it all away. So when you come back, I'll show you how I'm filling that demijohn. You'll realise why I'm using my beer fermentation bucket. Okay, so we've left the yeast. That's doing nicely. I've sterilised, and I've also put some sterilising fluid in here, and I've left my bungs in the sterilising fluid, so they're ready to go. I've checked they fit, which is kind of important because all demijohn's quite different. I've got my yeast, it's warm, it's lovely, and it's going in. Let's give it a good swirl. Just going to check I've got everything. Give it another rinse. I'm going to give that a really good stir in, and then we'll fill the demijohns. So I've got my metal spoon. It's not exactly perfectly clean, but it's good enough. So we'll get this going. This is going to start going pretty quick because the amount of sugar in there, that yeast is going to love it. I think I can almost see already. It's looking frothy. That's not going to be long. It'll be interesting how long it takes, but there's quite a lot in there. So remember, this is really for the entirety of this tub. This would be the whole of the tub. So now what I'm going to do is put the lid back on, because these little nasty vinegar flies turn up. They smell the wine and then they want to have a little taste. Now you can see why I've got my little pipe. So the demijohn can go underneath, and I literally just turn it and fill, and that's it. As simple as that. And I'm going to do half on each, and then I'll come back to you because I need to now be careful that I don't drop one, otherwise you'll see somebody crying on the video. Okay then guys, so you can see I've got my fluids. There's quite a lot of stuff suspended in there. It's going to be interesting, but that will sediment out. But what I'm going to do is I've taken 1 more cup of water, and I'm going to drop in some more white stuff. There we go. And you're asking, well, what's that? Well, this is what they call, let's turn my phone, yeast nutrients. So yeast nutrient is basically what it says. It's like little vitamins for yeast, and it just helps them out. So I'm just going to add that in. I should have really done it before I split them, but it's okay. So that adds a little bit more volume, which is why, again, like I said, I started off with almost a demijohn. Now I've got, you know, almost 2. But pretty quickly, once I've got that in there, we'll go up a bit more. But I'm going to lose kind of that much off each. So by the time I've racked it off a few times, I might be down to just 1 gallon. So I'm going to add this in, and then I'm going to put my stoppers on, and I'm just going to leave it, and I'll come back. I'm going to show you a video as soon as I start to see some cool fermentation happening. I'll let you know, but it could take a day. It might take longer. Let's see. Okay then, YouTubers, Saturday the 8th of October. So I've just racked off my grape and rhubarb wine from the garden grapes this year. Quite interesting. So what I've done is put some finings in, some isinglass. Now this was pretty clear, it looked pretty clear when I racked it off. So obviously I had loads of sediment at the bottom, but here you can see all the little bits. If I move my light round a little, sort of shows them. Can you see? That's called flocculation. So what's going to happen is now, over a couple of weeks, all this is going to just drop out, and it's going to leave my amazingly clear wine. But the interesting thing is, it actually looked clear before, but now it's going to be properly clear, and it's going to be quite incredible. So there you go. So flocculation in action. So all I did, bit of isinglass in some wine, shook it, which also helped. You can see, look, there's a bit of gas still on the top. I'm giving it a few shakes just to make sure I've got it all sorted, and I'm just going to let it all drop out, and then I'm going to rack it off a second time. So that is flocculation. Okay, so final part of this wine production process is bottling it. So my advice is real simple actually. You save a screw top bottle because they're much easier than corking, and you can put a new label on it not a problem, get these labels off. And you bottle it. So I've got 6 in here. I've actually got enough for another bottle. I've already done one, just because it's easier. If you look, I still got a little bit there at the bottom in terms of the detritus that's fallen out. But if we look at this one as an example, that's absolutely sparkling clean. Now, one bit of advice I would give, if you struggle with your siphoning, get a bit of muslin cloth, fold it over several times and just strain the last bit of isinglass out. But this is, there you go, very nice. It's very clear, it's very fresh. Let's have a little try while we're here. So a little bit of dryness coming through. Pretty much all that sugar's gone. I'm estimating around 11, might be 12% alcohol, but it's really nice. There's a little bit of like a glow to it. I think like a slight, more than a yellow, it's deeper. That's because we've got the tannins, and obviously also we've got the rhubarb that gave it just that little bit of extra. So there you go. So that's my winemaking process this summer, start to finish. I've only got a little bit, 6 bottles, but you could do an awful lot more if you've got more fruit. So next year I may have more fruit, and then I'll be doing a little bit more. So if you've enjoyed this, please subscribe and you might see some more.